If you have an older Macintosh like this Mac Pro, you have the ability to use older macOS, and with that comes the ability to use older software. Now obviously you could just use a modern alternative and not even deal with this, but what's cool about older software is that, first of all, look at these icons. It's 3D everywhere you go, and in general the operating system itself just looks fantastic. Secondly, because this is an older version of macOS, specifically macOS Lion, this means that I am able to use older software that has basically been neglected, forgotten about, otherwise known as abandonware, and it is software that has, well, it's in the name, been abandoned by the developers. There is no current new release supported for a new version of macOS, and even if it does still work on the latest and greatest, well, there's no guarantee it's going to continue to work because obviously it's abandoned. And even if software has continued to see support up to this day, nothing is stopping you from using the latest and greatest for your particular operating system. Some of you might be thinking, what about security? So anyways, in today's video, we're going to take a look at these two applications, RipIt and Handbrake. Now these go hand in hand when it comes to DVDs. Let me just say right now that this video is not intended to be a comparison between physical media and streaming. I use streaming all the time because if you think about it, YouTube itself is a streaming service. However, when it comes to movies and TV shows, generally I would prefer it to be on a physical format, whether it be VHS, DVDs, or even Blu-rays. The advantage of DVDs is that you're also able to use these on some old systems, whether it be Mac or PC, and most of the time they have built-in drives anyways. RipIt is a simple but convenient tool to have on your Mac. Now I'm using the old net here to display the old website. This is an archive from 2010 and it was developed by the Little App Factory. If you try to look up their website nowadays, it seemingly doesn't exist, but thankfully we still have archives of both the website and the software. I mean, obviously you saw I have it in the dock right here, but this is all you really need to know. Ripping movies onto your Mac, iPhone, or iPad is finally easy, and they even had a guarantee that if it didn't work for some reason, they'll buy a copy of whatever it is and release an update. I got this directly from Macintosh Garden, and if you don't know about this website, it's a fantastic resource to have for really any Macintosh. It has software from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. I mean, it has pretty much anything you'd want for an old Mac, and RipIt is one of those applications. I've been using this website for a lot of different old software for PowerPC, early Intel. You never know what you might actually find next because I had no idea that this was even a thing until I found it here. There's a couple of good videos on YouTube on how to actually use this software, and even though they are as old as the software itself, they are actually still helpful because it's not like this has really seen any updates since then. Something interesting that I saw about the old videos is that they all said it was a fast process, and they were using something like a MacBook, an iMac, basically like the Core 2 Duo generation. And I'm not saying that those chips are bad, but when you have it compared against a Mac Pro with 32 gigabytes of RAM, which I doubt anyone really had back in the day, then this should hopefully be instantaneous with the Xeon processors that we have. What I really like about the software is that even though it's simple, it's effective, and it just works. If we go into preferences, there are actually some pretty cool features here. If you wanted to, you could actually make this an automatic process, so you could decide if you want to actually start ripping or compressing the DVD and eject it when it's done. And then there's just some other features like animations. The dock icon actually updates in real time with a percentage, and something that I did not even know until now is that it'll save it as a .dvd media file, which basically emulates as if the DVD itself was in the drive, which is really cool because it means that you save it like a one-to-one copy. You don't lose out on the actual menus. It's really cool. The Compress tab also has a variety of different options here, such as what do you actually want to do with the files here? Do you want subtitles? Do you want to optimize it for a specific device from this era? So PSP files, iPad, iPhone 4. Generally though, high quality MP4 would be the best option here. And you can also automatically import it into iTunes if you have this enabled. As cool as it would be to actually make use of the compress tab here, unfortunately I can't get it to work, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So let's open up the drive, take our copy of the matrix here and put it into the drive. After some beach ball action, it shows up right here, just like that. The name listed here is directly from the DVD, but we are able to actually change it, so we could get rid of this entire portion, clean it up a bit, and make it more manageable in terms of actually storing it on the hard drive. You can see that this is a dual layer DVD because it is 7.8 gigabytes in size, and we have three options here: rip, eject, and compress. Now rip is basically the .dvd media extension file, essentially having the DVD permanently on your hard drive, and I plan on doing this for every DVD I have because I want a virtual copy of it alongside the physical version. And even though compress would be nice to use, unfortunately I can't get it to work because of this. Now I know what you're thinking, why don't you just click on download and compress? Well, I already did that, and it seems like it's trying to contact a server that doesn't exist anymore because it just times out. Now, I do have Handbrake installed. I also tried to download the CLI file directly from the Handbrake website. I tried to install it within the application files of RipIt. I tried to actually make a separate folder where programs actually gather like dependencies and stuff. It didn't work with that either. I'm sure there is a way to actually make this function, but as it is right now, I'm just going to rip all the DVDs using the actual .dvd media file, and then afterwards, once it's on the hard drive, I'll just use Handbrake to convert it into an MP4, and in theory, it should still be faster than doing it directly from the DVD, because it's on the hard drive as a digital file. There's no optical media between the conversion process. I did try this out with 3 different versions of Handbrake. 0.9.5 is the oldest here. It doesn't have a CLI file. The 1.0 release does have a CLI file, but that did not work. Same with 1.1.2. This is the latest officially supported version for Lion, and that is what I currently have installed at the moment. And I also tried out 1.2.0 to see if it was actually blocked on Lion, which it is, but I just wanted to double check with the compatibility. Now this really goes alongside the old software here. We have an iPhone 4 running iOS 4, and it'll help us out as a stopwatch to see how long this process will actually take. And there we have it. It is starting off here. We have an awesome animation, and we even have the dock icon updated in real time. It's been 11 minutes so far, and as you can see here, it looks as if the Mac is basically sitting idle doing nothing, yet this is working in the background and it is still going at a pretty fast pace. I thought that this would use more system resources if they were available, but I guess it just doesn't really require that much in the first place. I'm beginning to understand why it was so efficient even on those lower end Macs, because it just seems to be a very well optimized program that just works, which is awesome. And even though we of course have the DVD in the drive here, it's almost impossible to tell because of how quiet it is. You only really hear the noises of the Mac Pro itself. Basically all the fans working to cool the system. It was even faster than I thought because it was still at like 80-something% and then it just finished. It took around 26 minutes, which is actually pretty reasonable considering this is optical media on an older system. And as you saw, it was barely taking advantage of any of the system resources. So I would say that this is a very good success. And as you can see, we have the file right here. It says DVD. And if we open it up, we can also eject the drive. We can play it without a problem. It is so cool to see that this type of file is even a thing because, like I said, I didn't know it existed in the first place. But now we have a DVD player media document. And it is actually opened up with DVD player. As you can see, we can control the menu system as if we actually have a DVD here, but the DVD is right here. This is hands down awesome. The only reason I never really saved any DVDs digitally until now is because if I used Handbrake directly, it would split everything up, I would lose out on the menu system, it just wouldn't be the same. But now that I know that this is a thing, it's real, and I can save all my DVDs this way, I'm going to move on to other DVDs as well, save them all on my iTunes media drive, and after they've all been transferred onto the Mac, then I can process it with Handbrake. It's going to be faster, more efficient, and we're preserving absolutely everything. I have used Handbrake in the past, but I took some time to look at the settings again, and I've decided at super high quality 480p. Now 480p because it's of course still a DVD, but I still want to get the best possible quality out of it, so this seems like the best preset. The last time I tried to use this preset was on a MacBook, and it was going to take hours upon hours to even complete. The difference here though is that we are of course running on a Mac Pro, so hopefully this will definitely be faster. Not to mention it's an upgraded Mac Pro, so I will still keep track of how long it'll take, but I'm hoping that this is going to be a very fast process. I'm sure that all the indicators here for the different cores are going to basically max out, and I have it set here as an MP4 file. Obviously save it as the matrix.mp4, going into the iTunes media drive in a separate folder, and everything here is the standard preset except for the fact that I have added an optional subtitle track. Now I've never tried to add this when using Handbrake, so this is going to be the first time to see if it actually works. It's on the DVD, so why not have it as an option on the MP4 file? But otherwise we have the Dolby Pro Logic 2 soundtrack, we have AC3, and it is selected at higher quality here, so we should hopefully have a fantastic looking file at the end here alongside all of the chapters. So what we'll do is we will just click on start and keep an eye on the time to see how long this will take. And as expected, yeah, everything maxed out, but considering the specs of this system, I'm sure it's going to be way faster than the MacBook. It's averaging 36 FPS here, which is awesome. Now that is exactly what I was expecting to see, pretty much 100% usage, but that just means that it's working. Even though this is completely opposite to what we saw with RipIt, something that is actually similar is that the dock icon here actually has percentage and time indicators, just like RipIt. It's been around 50 minutes at this point. We have just over 50 minutes remaining, and it is really awesome to see this because the runtime of the movie is over 2 hours. So we get to retain that quality while having the convenience of a fast or a very fast preset. So it just finished. As you can see here, the Mac is back at idle. We have our new file, and in Handbrake it says that it's done. So I first tried to open it up directly with QuickTime, but as you see it says that a required codec is not available. Now I'm assuming this is because of the subtitle track. So what I did instead of dealing with this is I went to VLC here, and what's awesome about it is that it still natively supports macOS Lion. So I was able to just click on download and use it as if it's on a modern system. And once we actually open this up with VLC directly, it starts up no problem. And we do have the subtitle track here, so we can enable it. And just like that, we have subtitles, which is awesome because, well, they're not directly burnt into the video. So with iTunes opened up, in theory, we should just be able to drag and drop the file. There's a lot of potential here, and I'm just really excited to see this in action. It's officially in the library, but the reason why it shows up within home videos is because we have to click on get info, and within options here, we can change on selecting it to be a movie instead of a home video. And just like that, it shows up here. It's a good sign that it shows a preview of the movie itself, but in order to actually make it look nice within the library, we can go to this website, which is essentially an iTunes search engine for artwork. It has a variety of different options, such as TV show, movie, iBook, album, anything really within iTunes. And I already got the high-resolution copy of the poster here, and in fact, it's already on the hard drive, so we can take this move it so it's right next to the movie itself. Eventually this will be organized with folders because there's going to be more than one movie here. Take the artwork, drag it here, and just like that, we have our brand new movie within iTunes. So I'm looking at the back of the case here to transfer the information over into iTunes, and because it's a copy from 1999, I want it to be as era appropriate as possible. So I'm transferring this entire section word for word, and so far it's been going well, but I learned that there is actually a character limit within the description area. Even though it would be nice to have more in the description area, it's not a super big deal. I mean, we still have something here, so it's not completely empty. Overall, though, I'm going to call this a success because not only do we have a DVD copy of the movie itself on the Mac, we have it within iTunes, and for the final test, we could put it on the iOS 4, iPhone 4 to see if it'll actually work in the first place, and I'm also really interested to see how it'll operate with the subtitles. So the file that we spent all this time creating within Handbrake will play without a problem in VLC, but the moment I try to open it up within iTunes, it immediately crashes. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this is because of that subtitle track. However, there's a chance we can recover this without having to recompress anything in Handbrake, and that's because iTunes itself has a way of converting the file into either an iPod, iPhone version, or an iPad and Apple TV version. Honestly, it's hilarious that I chose The Matrix here as the first movie because I kind of feel like Neo following the White Rabbit, uncovering the secrets behind video files and subtitles. As much as I want to re-record part of the video here and just show you the end result, which actually works, I left in the first part because maybe you'll learn something from my mistakes, and I just wanted to show you that things aren't always perfect the first time. And if I didn't spend the extra time to try and fix this problem, I never would have found out about Subler, another application which is awesome to have alongside the other video apps because it is really convenient, especially when it comes to subtitles, something that I have obviously never dealt with until now. So to recap what we've done so far, this video file crashes in iTunes, but it's able to be opened up within VLC just fine with the option of having subtitles enabled. However, we were able to successfully convert it into an iPod, iPhone version. It down converts the dimensions to be compatible on the older devices, but this version does actually open up successfully within iTunes here, but we don't have any options in terms of subtitles. So at this point, it's a partial success, but the real solution comes with Subler. Honestly, the fact that the main video file wasn't able to be opened up in QuickTime should have been a dead giveaway that something was wrong, and it would especially not work in iTunes, but of course I completely ignored that. However, though, you can see that we actually have a playable file within native macOS now. So I made a couple of copies of the initial file here, and I opened it up within Subler to start testing out different features. And the first one I was focused on was the subtitle track, which makes sense. However, every time I tried to actually force the track onto the video, it just wouldn't save. However, I discovered that in the stereo track here, there is a feature for subtitles, and I was able to just select the subtitle track. This actually enables it in a different way, which is actually compatible with QuickTime here. So if we open up the new file directly in QuickTime, first of all, it opens up, which is farther than before, and we also have chapters, which is something I wasn't expecting, but that is awesome to see. And if we start playing this, it works just fine. And if we go into the view options, we can either select no subtitles or subtitles. And these are different subtitles. They're not the ones from the initial DVD, but these are supported on actual Apple devices, which is the reason why it now works. I'll delete these two files once I transfer over the working file, but I did transfer over the test one just to make sure it actually does work. It works just fine within iTunes, and it is so awesome to see that we have chapters here. And not only do we also have subtitles, we have a second audio track for surround sound, which is very cool to see. I wasn't expecting to see this within iTunes directly, and it was very worthwhile converting everything over with Handbrake. So now that we actually know what we're doing in the first place, the plan I have for saving DVDs is to obviously have the DVD media file, use Handbrake to get the same file like we have right here, and then use Subler to help us with the actual subtitles in order to make it usable within QuickTime and iTunes. Even though it might seem a bit excessive to have multiple versions of the same movie, they're all different in their own way, and I think it's actually really nice to have it like this. Plus, it's a Mac Pro, and we have plenty of storage available. One of the best additional features of Subler is that we can also add additional metadata directly onto the file itself. So we don't have to do it in iTunes, it'll be directly embedded within the QuickTime video. I know that this entire section with iTunes has kind of been all over the place, but look at all this awesome metadata. Subler is going to be part of the dock alongside RipIt and Handbrake because it's just an awesome application to have. You can do all of this customizing with the file itself, and the end result is a very professional looking iTunes library, and even though it did take me quite a while to actually learn how this works, it's going to be a wonderful addition to make the movies and TV shows that much better. On the off chance we really want to use this with an older iOS device, we can always make a custom version within iTunes, but I only plan on making it when I actually use it, otherwise there's no real point in having a duplicate if it doesn't even get used. Subtitles, multiple audio tracks, and the fact that it even works in iTunes is awesome. But let's wrap up today's video by actually syncing it over to an iPhone and test it out in the iPod app. Now, because the iPhone 4 itself has a Retina display, in theory we should be able to just use the standard copy of the movie. Hopefully we don't have to make a custom version. But let's put it to the test by syncing this over. And because this is iOS 4, we still have the old sync in progress display. Everything went smoothly. It is now on the iPhone here. And what's awesome about iOS 4 is that it still has the iPod app. So music, videos, it's all integrated into this application. And as you can see, we now have the movie here. And it works. We have chapters. And we also have our subtitles here. We started off with the DVD, but because of these awesome applications on the Mac, we were successfully able to transfer it to the Mac and move it onto an iOS device. This iPhone isn't connected to the internet, but we have the entire movie on it, and we also don't have any advertisements. Even though these applications are considered obsolete because it's on old macOS, I was able to do this just fine without any problems whatsoever. And even though it does take a little bit of time to actually set up the library itself to get the DVD onto the Mac in the first place, but the end result is definitely worth it because you have your library wherever you are. That is if you actually transfer it over to your device. But you're also free to use something like an Apple TV and watch it directly on your TV. And the best part, there's no monthly subscription to enjoy your content. Looks like old macOS is going to be a lot busier now because I have a lot of DVDs to add, and this library is going to be jam-packed with a whole bunch of awesome content, music, movies, TV shows, and I can use it alongside my matching retro obsolete iOS devices. We're going to wrap up today's video here. If you enjoyed taking a look back at this awesome old software that still does the job, then consider leaving a thumbs up. And if you want to see more about iTunes, the Mac, and old iOS in action, then consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.